Welcome to the Film Florida podcast. I'm John Lux, and I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida. Before we get to our interview, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the Film Florida podcast. If you're not already a member of Film Florida, please consider joining at filmflorida.org. If you like what you hear on the podcast, please consider going to our website and donating $20.22 for our 2022 fundraising campaign. We also have a Film Florida merchandise page. Visit filmflorida.creator-spring.com to purchase Film Florida t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, and more. Actor Bill Kelly is originally from Richmond, Kentucky, but he's lived in Florida since 1984 and began acting professionally in 2011. He's appeared in over 50 television and film projects, including Burn Notice, Ballers, Bloodline, True Detective, and more. Most recently, he was in multiple episodes of The Wonder Years and the feature film Where the Crawdads Sing. We talked to Bill about getting into acting, his advice for new actors, the grind that is acting, and more on this episode of the Film Florida podcast. Here's my conversation with Bill Kelly. Welcome to the Film Florida podcast, Bill.
Thanks for having me.
So what is your backstory? Where'd you come from?
Wow, I feel like I've been around for 100 years and have traveled the world, but alas, I've not. I was born in Kentucky, lived there for 21 years, left there, went to South Georgia, and then moved to Tallahassee, and I've been here since '86. So it's been a very, very short journey, but a very accomplished one with regards to what I've done in radio.
Well, and now doing the math, though, you didn't get into acting immediately when you went to college, got out of college. What did you do in between college and into acting? And I think you're still doing it.
Yeah, I am. I work at iHeart Media, and I started here back in '86. I actually started radio in 1981. And if you know anything about DJs, they tend to travel all over the country and kind of do the stepping stones to get to a bigger market.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually only worked at 5 different radio stations in my 41-year career. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. People are always anxious to find out how that road to acting came about. And I think it's just kind of a natural transition. And you're a DJ, you're kind of acting a certain way anyway. It's got a little bit of show business there because you're not telling the world about your problems and your money issues, and your health issues, and you hang those problems on the back of the door when you come in the studio, and you try to make other people feel good. So in a way, there's a little bit of acting that goes on every day with a radio personality.
And so that leads into the next question. Like, why did you get into acting? When did that happen? How did that all come about officially?
Well, I'd always wanted to do it. My first and only foray into theater was when I was a senior in high school, and I went out. They were doing the Beverly Hillbillies. And I went out for the part of Mr. Drysdale because I felt, it was a safe piece. Mm-hmm. And they gave me the lead role of Jed Clampett. So that was my first taste of what acting felt like. And honestly, I really didn't have the time for theater, but I wanted to do it. And then probably in 2004, this will date it, we got a fax in that said Florida State Film School is going to have open auditions for people in the community come volunteer to be an actor. And I thought, well, put me down for that. Mm-hmm. So I went down there, signed up, did a cold audition, and they started giving me parts. And after about 30 short films with the film school and then with a friend of mine here in town, Fred Bath, I got divorced, not because of acting, but I'd gotten a divorce, pretty much raised my kids. And I thought, well, I'm going to see if I can do anything with it. Found a decent agent, found another great agent, and started working professionally.
So it sounds like your acting start really came from FSU Film School.
It did. My first professional gig didn't happen until I hit 50. Wow. So I am definitely the late bloomer of the acting world. Went after it after, my adult responsibilities were pretty much handled.
Interesting. And so, you were doing a lot of shorts, you mentioned. What did you learn? Like, what are some of those early skills that you picked up in doing some of those shorts for the film school?
Well, I I learned that some of those you should absolutely get a hold of and burn. There were some that I always said, if I ever end up on the Tonight Show, that's going to be the film. They go, here, you remember this little doozy you did back? And so, yeah, I mean, you learned a lot. I learned a lot from these kids. They're amazing. They approach it just like a real film set, where you're there 14 hours a day and you're working your butt off and trying to catch some sleep in between shots or something like that. So I learned how a set works. It gave me the ability to hone the skills and not be such a theater actor, and just little nuances that we do in our everyday life that, you may forget when the camera's turned on. But it gave me a lot of great experience.
Yeah. And when you look at your credits, the first one that most people will recognize is your time on Burn Notice. What do you remember about getting that part and being on such a great series?
It's funny because I can remember the audition like it was yesterday. And I kind of pantomimed the audition. I was in the restroom and washing my hands when Jeffrey Donovan's character comes up and faces me, or confronts me, I should say. I was shaking in my boots for the cameras to start rolling. Prior to them starting, I was there from like 10 o'clock in the morning until, I don't even think we got that shot off until like 11:30 that night. So we were the last shot of the day. And I think we had 2 cameras rolling, and I think we did maybe 5 shots, and that was it. But gave me an idea of what to expect. Jeffrey Donovan's, 6'2". I'm standing in a hole, literally that deep, in front of the restroom door, and so I'm looking up at him trying to deliver these lines in somewhat intimidating manner, and I don't think it came off too well to him.
Now, in addition to being on Bird Notice, though, you've been on a few projects that we recognize here in Florida, like Pain and Gain, Graceland, Ballers, Bloodline, and most recently, The Right Stuff. Yes. Do you have any memorable stories or two from that group of Florida-based productions?
Yeah, I usually play authority figures like a cop or a DEA, FBI, a lawyer, a doctor. But shooting Graceland, I was basically a machine shop operator, somebody who's the lead actress walks in and says she needs to get a tank filled with gas. And that shot gave me an ability to back off and just kind of be a normal person instead of, barking orders or having a gun in my hand all the time. Had a great time on The Right Stuff. That was very, very much a fun shot, even though I play an admiral in there. I'm in an NCO club, and we're actually an officers club, and we're doing just kind of normal stuff. So it was a great scene there. And then Ballers, I didn't find out they changed my lines until I got into the van and found they gave me the sides, and I was on the set, on the way to set, when I found out that my lines are pretty much all different now. So I had to get to set. I told the director, he's like, don't worry about it, we'll get you a stand-in to run with. And then Dwayne got there, and he was an absolute great guy, very understanding, and he ran through it with me a few times until we got comfortable with it. But they were all great. Bloodline, fantastic. You're shooting in the beautiful Florida Keys. The only regret I have there is I didn't take my kayaks down, and I was on location for so long. I just totally missed an opportunity there. But yeah, they're all great experiences. Florida's got a lot to offer.
Bill, besides your Florida credits, you've had some other really interesting roles. Besides the one we've talked about, do you have a favorite or interesting experience worth sharing from another project outside of Florida?
Yeah, I've shot a couple things in New Orleans a couple of years ago, back in 2017. I did the Super Bowl ad for Budweiser, where I played Eberhard Anheuser. And that's where Anheuser and Busch meet, a fictional storyline there. But that was very fun. I get to play, dress up in period clothing. And then the one that came out a few months back with where the Crawdads Sing, also shot in Louisiana, and just a extraordinary experience in general to be a part of something so huge. But and I think the only downside of it was the mosquitoes had landing lights, and the horseflies bit really hard.
So I want to talk a little bit more about Where the Crawdads Sing in just a minute, but also recently, people may have seen you on a couple episodes of season 1 of The Wonder Years, the new series that's out. Tell us how you got the role of Coach Wright and why people should be watching The Wonder Years if they're not already.
This is a lot of times you see series come back. When you see them come back, they're like, okay, this is a reboot of this. So it's not trying to redo the characters of Kevin and the original Wonder Years. This is a reimagined Wonder Years that goes to 1969, and it focuses on a African-American family in 1969 and growing up and being a normal kid and doing normal kid stuff, going to school. I'd actually auditioned for the role of the principal, and they came back and said, we want you to be Coach Wright. And it's been nothing but a blast. I mean, I love the Williams family, Dulé Hill, Saquon, EJ. They're just a great group of people, and it's a great series to be a part of.
Now, I don't know if you can give anything away, but should we expect to see you in future episodes?
This is my standard. La, 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 la.
Okay.
I'm hoping so. Hoping so. I'm in the middle of a couple different projects right now that I can't really talk about. Those pesky NDAs, they say I have to pay them $1 million So yeah, hoping for the best with some of the stuff I got going on.
Well, having hope is better than just a flat out no.
yeah. There's nothing going on. Waiting for my next meal.
So then you mentioned your role as Sheriff Jackson in the film Where the Crawdads Sing. First, for people who don't know the story, without spoilers, tell us what the story is a little bit.
It's a story of Kaya. This novel was written. It's based on a novel by Delia Owens. It's about a young girl named Kaya back in the 50s, 60s era. Kaya, when she's young, she's abandoned by her family, one at a time. So she's really left to fend for herself in the marsh of North Carolina. And she learns how to live off the land. She learns how to dig mussels for, and trade for food, learns how to grow things, learns how to do her own sewing and how to, make something out of nothing, and pretty much raises herself. She lives off the marsh and what the marsh has to offer. My character is Sheriff Jackson. He's been in Barkley Cove for most of his life. He is the local sheriff. He's a very intuitive kind of guy. He's a bulldog to some degree, where he's familiar with the town. He knows the people of the town. He knows the Marsh Girl, and he knows that marsh can hold a lot of secrets. So he's pretty much sure he's on the right track. And I'll let you go see the movie from there.
Very good. That was a perfect summary of why people should go see it. Now, how did you get that role? And besides the bugs, tell us what the filming process was like.
I got the role. I was actually midway through the book when I got the audition. And so I was starting to really get to know who Sheriff Jackson was. And then toward the end of the book, right before I was starting the last chapter, I found out I got the part. So yeah, it was, and filming process is, when you see the film, it's absolutely visually stunning. It's a great screenplay written by Lucy Alibar. And it's, I don't have anything bad to say about this. The reviews from the audience, the thing I hear the most is I saw it for the third time. I saw it again last night. We're going to go see it again. So it's one of those films that you're not going to just want to go see it one time. You're going to want to go see it multiple times and share that experience with, a loved one or a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse type of thing. It's just one of those things you want to brag on and go, wow, look, I missed that in the first time. Or yeah, look at that, I didn't see that. So it's one of those films I think is going to be around forever.
Well, it was really interesting when the first trailer came out and we saw you were in it, and the buzz that just happened around me was really weird because we saw that, and then shortly thereafter, my daughter ordered the book without me even knowing. So all of a sudden the book shows up. And then I had a friend post the trailer on Facebook and say, oh, can't wait to see this. And so I was like, I actually know somebody that's in the movie. So that all happened within like 2 weeks. And it was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. I mean, like the personal buzz that I saw happening for it was really cool.
It struck me when the trailer first came out and I looking at my face in the trailer and then multiple trailers that they released afterwards. I think I got seen by more people around the world than I have ever come close to experiencing before. So yeah, it was kind of surreal. It's still kind of surreal watching something I've done and really thinking that, wow, other people can see this in LA or the UK or anywhere across the world. I mean, it's one of those worldwide releases. So it's a little surreal. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Well, and you were at the premiere, I believe, right? Up in New York
Yes.
for it? How was
Yeah,
that?
went to the premiere back in the summer, and it was again surreal. I've been to one other premiere before, and that was for The Banker, and we did that in Memphis. So there wasn't as much, hoopla around it. It was also just coming into COVID, was just starting to take hold around there. So not quite as big a premiere as this one has gotten. But it was fantastic. Went down to Times Square with my wife and, took a picture of the LED billboard that popped up there with the poster for the movie. And then going to the screening, going to the premiere that night, doing the red carpet and having my wife on the red carpet for photos was great. And the best part about it is that was our anniversary.
Wow.
So, I'm looking at her going, well, I can't top this next year. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You've set the bar pretty high now, though.
Yeah. It's definitely set high, but it was great seeing the movie. If you haven't seen this movie yet, seeing it for the first time at the premiere and hearing the gasps and the oh no, and just the audience reacting to it. And I can't really reveal more than that, but it's one of those things that you until you see it, you can't realize. Collectively an audience going, what?
Well, now, and you do all of this again while juggling a full-time job outside of acting. How does that work?
Well, luckily I've been here for nearly 36 years. So I have some vacation time, but I take my computer with me. I'm in radio sales now, and I take my computer with me and work remotely when I'm not shooting. And it works out. It's make phone calls and send emails and talk to clients and check on them, and so it works out good. And the station's been very, very supportive. My bosses they're like, we live vicariously through you and watch the stuff, and so they're very supportive.
And we've talked a lot about, some of the fun stuff that you've had in your career. And when people think about being an actor, they think it's glamorous. And it's really only glamorous for a really small group out there. The rest of the acting community is more normal, like you. Talk about the challenging process for you to book a gig. I mean, you joked about, where you're going to get your next meal, but sometimes you don't know what your next gig is going to be. Talk about that whole process of the ups and downs of being an actor.
Well, you're exactly right. The majority of, the celebrity stuff and the real money is for a very small collective group of actors, the A-listers, who are kind of representing Hollywood. But the reality of it is most of the people that I know are working actors. You have the waitress job where you're working part-time in LA so you can go run and do auditions. It's hard to make a living being a part-time actor where you're not working on sets most of the year and not making the big money. So it's still great money, but it's not like the majority of us are rolling in money and driving Mercedes Benz. Just not that way. Most of the auditions I get, and pretty much anybody in my caliber of actor, if you're booking 2 or 3 times a year on a co-starring or maybe a guest starring role, it's going pretty good. And, for those of us in the Southeast, but would always love to have more to be able to break out of that, the part-time gig and be able to do it full-time and make a living off of it. But doing auditions, you may do 100 in a year and get 2.
Right.
So it's very tough. It's not just something where you put something out there and people bid on you, or, you still have to go through the audition process and callbacks and all that good stuff to even glimmer of a hope that you're going to get the part.
Do you find yourself getting discouraged? And how do you avoid that?
I'm a little different on the approach of that. I think if a young actor were to ask me, what do I do, what do I don't do, to try to do this business, forget about your auditions. Don't call your agent and go, well, what they say, do they like me? I can do this. I can change it up. Do your audition the best you can do it, and then forget about it. And then you've got a nice surprise coming your way if they call you up and go, guess what? You got the part. Just work at your craft of auditioning like your job depended on it, because it really does. And then, always be supportive of other actors. It's nothing that they've done personally to you if they got the part. It's nothing against you if you didn't get the part. It can come down to just a look. A lot of times you'll look at the sides for an audition, and I've looked at them before and gone, oh, I know the perfect person who's perfect for that, not knowing that they're also auditioning and they end up getting the part. But always support your fellow actors. We're all in this together, and it's not like we're against each other. It's just it can be totally out of your control whether you're the right person that they're looking for.
Yeah. Now, there's a difference between being an actor and being a successful actor. Are there intangibles? I mean, like, how do you keep working on your craft so the next audition is better than the last one and your next performance is going to be better? Because you obviously don't want to just say, well, I'm good and be done. How do you keep performing and keep working at your craft?
Well, I think analyzing your auditions. I save all my auditions. I go back and look at them, look at the nuances I've put in it, look at the pacing of the audition, and you just criticize yourself. You critique yourself. Successful actor is not all the time monetary or being on a call sheet somewhere. Success really begins with your own personal satisfaction that you've done a great audition. My wife is my reader. She don't let me get away with nothing. I could be tired and dragging, and we'll go through it, and she'll go, no, I don't like you the way you did that. And we'll talk. And sometimes I get miffy because I'll go, really? That's fine. And she pushes me, so I'll go back and do it again. And usually she's right. I'll go back and look at the audition, and I'll keep the one that I thought was good. And 4 takes later, I'll look at the one she likes, and she's usually right. Even if she were wrong, this is recorded. I know I'd always say she's right. Yeah.
Of course. That's the one you put forward. Yes. and of course, those are the ones that you get chosen for, the ones that she tells you that's the right take.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Bill, where can people keep up on everything you're doing? What do you got going on? Do you have any, social media website you want to share?
Well, I've got my website, which is billkelly.net, N-E-T, and then can be on, social media, on Facebook, but it's I'm at the maximum on that. So Instagram and Twitter are probably the best things. Instagram more than ever. Both are Bill Kelly Actor, at Bill Kelly Actor. So look me up, and I usually share quite a bit on there. But the projects that I've got going on right now, I kind of keep them close to the vest. One of the series that I'm working on, I did the pilot for, got picked up, and I'm just want to make sure that I'm fully going to be on the show again and didn't get killed off right after the pilot. He's not back in episode 2 because he tripped on a coffee mug and fell off the screen somewhere.
Well, I know how busy you are. We've talked a little bit about that between your auditions and the full-time job. So I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for being on the Film Florida podcast. And of course, thanks for being such a great Film Florida member through the years.
Absolutely. Let's get more coming back into the state.
We're doing everything we can, and you're part of that effort. I appreciate it, Bill.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Film Florida podcast. For more information about Film Florida, go to filmflorida.org or visit our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you're not already a member of Film Florida, please consider joining at filmflorida.org. If you like what you hear on the podcast, please consider going to our website and donating $20.22 for our 2022 fundraising campaign. Check out the Film Florida merchandise at filmflorida.creator-spring.com. And please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast.